Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Baer, and joining me once again is my partner in crime, Kenny Boucher, with special guest Caleb Wissenback. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
How you guys doing, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So we got lots to talk about with Caleb. Lots of things going down. I would like to be selfish and say we're going to talk about Titans the whole time, but that's not the case, unfortunately. But it is one of our major talking points, no matter what Kenny wants to say.
I've never even enforced your Titan timer.
That's true. You haven't. You've been very...
I've just threatened you with it. I've never actually pulled the trigger on that.
I'm kind of sad there isn't more Titanicus happening. Very sad.
Yeah. Well, you're the only one. Literally.
That's not true.
You and There's 16 other people. I don't know. We'll see. Caleb, how do you feel about Titanicus? You play that game?
No.
That's it. Get off this podcast.
When it first came out, I got it, but when you're building knights constantly, and it seems like that's all you're building. The last thing I want to do is build more knights, and that's what I feel like Titanicus is.
I mean, I've got more stuff than I'll ever put together. I got the little baby, the armigers, the little resin armigers. They go on 25 mil bases. They are tiny. And I'm just like, I made mistakes with this one.
Man, if they shifted that over to, what was that called? Epic at the time?
Mm-hmm.
That was my feelings too.
If they shifted towards that, I'd be a little more interested in it. I love that.
I 100% thought it was, when they showed us the previews, it's like, oh, Epic coming back. This is going to be so sick.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they still can. They have everything's quarter scale. So, and that was one of the rumors, that would happen as the releases have slowed up for both Titanicus and AI. But
they didn't.
Not yet. There's still time.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. So, okay. So we have Caleb on. Okay, guys. And you may have seen on the internet that there is a cool, I want to say like promotion going on with Harder.
It's like a fundraiser sort of thing.
Yeah. You've probably seen these banners being promoted by people on the internet, but called Help Ukraine. And so CK Studio is a big part of that. So we're going to definitely talk about that with Caleb here during our interview section. So that's mainly why we're here to, talking with him today, which is a great opportunity to also hit him up with some questions that he said he'd answer. So we're going to have some fun stuff to talk about and get some real ass information and also maybe some jokey ass stories from Caleb. We already did some after hours content where Caleb shared some pretty cool insight on some stuff. So you definitely want to check that out when you get a chance. Also, he was in the end of our before the after hours. So like he was in there. You saw his dog talk shop.
2 different dogs.
So if you can't get enough Caleb, I got more Caleb. I got stuff for you. I got a hard drive with Caleb on it.
No, you got to pivot it to join our Patreon.
Join our Patreon for my exclusive Caleb's. That's what I'm calling him. But okay, we don't have Wyatt here today. I forgot to mention that.
He's returning some videotapes.
Yeah, okay. Yep. He is the last blockbuster. Where is that
He's
place?
driving to Oregon.
Oregon, yeah. But we still have a Would You Rather, so we'll just start the show right now. We'll get this thing going. So just sit back, relax. I'm sure Rob is going to do an amazing job with this segment. Rob, would you like to roll out into Wyatt's Cave of Wonders? And
one day I'll have a cat cave that I can roll into, but regardless, before we get into that, I do want to mention that somebody checked in with a picture of a standalone, brand new Long John Silver's in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Did they take a selfie inside of it?
No, they took it. They didn't.
That's my deal. It doesn't count unless you go into the store and get a selfie with the employee. Like, I'll pay you for that picture.
They took it from the street. Like, they were driving by.
Of course.
Like, I'm not going in there.
You're not going in there. It's disgusting.
They're like, nope, no way.
What? Where was this?
Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Virginia? A new construction?
New construction, brand new, standalone.
Yo, Fredericksburg's got problems. Somebody felt that was a wise investment. Disgusting.
Fredericksburg's an interesting town.
Yeah. They have like the only new Long John Silver's in the world. Can't believe it. Anyway, thank you for sharing that with me. That's disgusting.
All right. So, would you rather always hit a red light for the rest of your life or always get slow internet after the sun goes down?
After the sun goes down?
Yeah, like when you're actually watching stuff.
How slow?
Like dial up slow.
56K slow?
Yeah, it's decent.
Like unusable, basically.
I mean, enough to just piss you off.
Okay, so just endless buffering of everything. But only when the sun goes down? Can I game it at all? Like, is it
No,
global?
you can't live in Alaska or nothing.
I think their internet is just garbage there anyway, so that wouldn't matter.
Watch them have better internet than us.
And I always hit red lights, like magically every intersection.
Not every light, but at least when you go on a trip or like get in your car and drive somewhere, you're gonna hit a red light. That's
already how it works for me, dog. Okay.
So even if you go on a street or like your path doesn't even take you by stoplights, you're gonna hit a red light.
Oh, okay.
Like there'll be the worker do the stop sign, and there's like no construction. It's just a stop sign.
I got it.
Standing there.
I mean, that's my life now.
Which one?
Red lights, stop signs. I don't give a fuck. Man, I can't be messing around with 56K.
No. Now, what if it was every red light? Like any light you roll up to, it's going to be red.
That's fine.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
I think they're both frustrating.
You can be frustrated in your car, and I'll be home downloading porn at high-speed connection speeds. Like I'm like, I just don't go outside anymore. I don't care.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I can't live without the internet. At night, bro, I don't wake up until like 2 p.m.
Yeah, but your night's different.
I mean, I have to start waking up early if I wanted to watch TV.
Oh yeah, I guess TV's pretty much streamed now.
Yeah, dog. I don't have a cable connection. I don't have
How do you watch football?
I don't.
Why not?
Because I play 40K.
You can watch football and play 40K.
I've got one ridiculous addiction. I don't need more. Also, you watch football?
I do. So
just learned something about Rob Baer today, guys. He's a sports guy.
I wouldn't say I'm a sports guy. I like watching football.
Caleb, what would you do? What would you choose?
Oh man, the red lights would drive me nuts. I can't handle drive. I mean, I kind of cheat. I ride in a van pool to work every day, and I really actually don't do anything except for work and stay at home. So I would choose the red light, but it'd still be frustrating. You'd probably see some news articles about me. Like there'd be videos out there of some guy like losing it at a stoplight, kicking over motorcycles and stomping on mirrors and stuff. That would be me.
How funny would it be too if it's like, it's magic induced, right? So it's over the top.
Yeah.
So that's we have an evil wishmaster genie that makes these happen. So that's why he said there was suddenly be like a guy with a stop sign, like a construction worker. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if you're just freaking out, throwing an absolute fit, and news teams show up and you're just losing it. But it's you're basically insane because they don't see it.
Right.
It just affects you. It's just you.
Right. It'd be falling down. Right?
It's your curse.
Yeah,
it's your curse.
Yeah. I'd be the lead actor in Falling Down. That's what it would be. That's probably what it would progress to. Like gunfights with cops, everything. Just because of red lights.
Yeah. But you'd be in a van. The thing is, it's pretty tame. Rob, thank you. I appreciate it. This isn't a hard one.
It wasn't a super hard one. It was a make you think one.
Yeah. It's I live in Los Angeles. I already hit every red light, so for me, it's like, meh. Like,
Yeah, I don't quite have those problems yet, but I hit a few.
it takes me 10 minutes to go 1 mile already, dog. It's not getting worse. like, like, freaking ridiculous. Okay, you did a good job. I don't think the internet's gonna be mad at you.
Thanks. Thank you, Internet, for not being mad at me about this particular thing right
About
here.
this thing, but you're still in the internet jail for clickbait, computer cancer,
Don't forget about the pills.
dick pills, and literally being Hitler.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one. Dang.
So you're still in jail for all that. I just checked my notes.
Okay. Thanks for reminding me. Whew.
Yep.
It's a lot. It's a lot to live up to. I'll do what I can, though.
Let's kick it on over to the news then, and let's see what's going on. I bet you got something in there that's totally not boring.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm back from returning my videotapes. So, first off, Kenny, hey, remember when we saw the silhouettes of the exclusive Warhammer Plus figures? And you were like doing some Photoshop work. You know, like, I think this is like a Chaos dude with like some red stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but it turns out you were right.
It's a Kaz dude with some red stuff. Nice.
Yeah. It's that classic World Eaters. I think it was a White Dwarf cover, but it was also on the Chaos Index Apocrypha. It's a really dope looking dude. And then they also showcased a female Chaos Sorcerer for Sigmar, but more importantly, she has like those little sorcerer dudes, like the old school ones, the little familiars from like the 80s, but they're sculpted in plastic now. Everybody liked those because they were in the Silver Tower box with the oh shoot, what was that sorcerer dude? Grim caster guy, I forget, but the guy you run with the Arcane
Grimlock.
list. No, that's a Transformer.
Do you know any of this stuff that he's talking about, Caleb?
I can't help it, man. I know.
I'm good at GW site. Anyways, so that was really cool stuff. So if you sign up for what is it, the subscription to Warhammer Plus, the new one that's coming out, because remember they rolled this out about a year ago on the 31st ish. You'll get those. Those are the new exclusives for a year from now.
Oh, those are the annual sign-ups or whatever?
Right.
Well, I like getting
nobody
bonus
in chat
stuff.
said what that was. Yeah. So turns out good call on that one. Nailed it. A little bit ahead of time. There was also some really cool merch that came out from Merchoid. So there's some second edition Chaos Code or second edition 40K Codex coasters.
Coasters?
Coasters.
Why?
Hey, if Haspel was here, we'd love that. He'd be like, "Yo, sign me up."
Bro, like I'm a gamer. Do you think I use coasters?
What do you put your drinks on?
Like right there? Like on my the same place I put my paints. Like, is the market good for coasters? I mean,
I don't know.
It must be. All the industries, part of, I do motocross and stuff, and they're always shoving out coasters as like prize material and stuff too. I don't use coasters either, so I don't get it.
I mean, stickers are big. Doesn't make any sense.
I put a sticker on something for sure. Oh. Okay. Tight, guys.
I don't know. $16.99 for a set of 4.
How much?
$16.99.
16 or 60?
16.99.
I was like, bro, you serious right now? Like,
inflation, man.
I mean, everything's gone up, bro. I feel like. Yeah, I guess we should talk about Haspel's, I guess, new gig. Officially, I guess he's full-time writer for Black Library. He put it on his Facebook, and they referred to him as the lore master in that World of Tanks article.
Yep. I mean, he does have a master's degree in military history.
See, all these things make sense.
And also, he's a literal rocket scientist. Like, so.
Really?
Yeah, Mike
Oh, yeah.
Hassel.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a gangster.
Yeah. People like. I mean, he's been off the show for a while just because he's been doing some writer for hire contracts with the Black Library, and just really trying to focus on his writing because he did have his book release, several years ago, and that was a big deal. It got it published by Tor, and he's been just trying to get another deal, balancing his work, life, job, hobby, and he had to start cutting things out to really just focus. But he was Academy grad, was a captain in the Air Force, was a missileer.
Man, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, now he writes contract proposals and literally does the science.
Does the science.
People crack me up when they question him on things it's just like that dude's actually a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
So I love that guy, and he's also a super nerd, and he got into Warhammer 40K because of the stories, man. So
Turns out might have been a good pivot.
yeah. And he said it was his dream 20 years ago when he said when he finally decided he's going to be a writer, was to write for GW, was write for Black Library.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Now he does.
Yep.
Now he's done it.
Super stoked.
So congratulations to the legendary Mike Haspel.
Absolutely.
Full time.
Yeah, no, that's dope to see. So the guy I was thinking about was the Gaunt Summoner. The Gaunt Summoner. For all of you wondering, it's not the Chaos Sorcerer. He's a Gaunt Summoner. Very similar model there.
In the what box was that again?
That's the Chaos, or that's the Age of Sigmar exclusive Warhammer Plus exclusive figure. It comes with the 4 familiars, cast familiars, or spellcasting familiars, based on the old 80s models.
Oh, I saw a picture of that on the internet. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and the chick's actually standing on a book that's like a live book with teeth and stuff. So, or maybe it's a mimic. I don't know.
Probably. That's some D&D nerd shit, right?
Yeah, it's the greatest. What else do we have? Oh, I thought this was a really interesting. So, Privateer Press, we talked about. They came out with a new edition of War Machine. So there's their new models, the ones that are coming in the starter bundles, are 3D prints. Everything's a 3D print. And they said that the reason they did that is so that it was easier to make a modular, and you get a pack of magnets as well. So you can, design, basically future proof your jacks, which I thought was really interesting because basically 3D printing's gone mainstream now in the miniature space. Where else can you get a 3D printed model off the shelf?
I mean, the better it gets. I mean, it basically changes the industry into print on demand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus, that's what changed, the apparel game, the t-shirt game, Back in the old days, literally you needed a silk, if you wanted to get into t-shirts, you had to buy a silk screen press set up your garage, do literally make shirts, hold an inventory, promote your inventory, and then mail that shit to people. It's such a production. Yep. And then direct to garment printing was invented, and now you can just print on demand. Right. So miniatures is going through their same because the slow evolution of that direct to garment was it wasn't as good. Right. It's oh, this is cool that we can do this, but it's not that tight. Right. It's not as tight. Well, it is as tight now. Direct to garment printing is as tight as silkscreen. So now totally print on demand all day. Well, and now that we're rapidly approaching the tipping point of 3D printing being as good as, traditional injection molding, suddenly it changes the game, right?
Oh yeah. It's
not even just from us hobbying out and making our own shit. Some people just don't care about that. They just want to buy models. Well, that changes everything for the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think especially with Sealcast too, if you're going to keep an inventory, Sealcast might be the way to go. Yeah. But if you want to be basically print on demand, which your only inventory you realistically need to keep is bottles of resin,
boxes and with that's it.
It's pretty wild. So it's really neat precedent to see out there. That I was like, oh, I didn't realize those were 3D prints and they're super modular, which is a huge precedent as well. Because, it's very, very flexible when you can do that sort of thing, and not have to put all those production costs into things and still have the same quality, which ultimately, when the stuff comes out, I mean, the consumer will decide, but it's interesting to see that it's at least going to be offered, which I'm pretty stoked about. Victoria Miniatures is launching a Kickstarter. It's actually already launched right now, but most people probably won't be hearing this till tomorrow. That is for her halflings, set of halflings that look pretty fresh. So go check that out. Victoria Miniatures Kickstarter. It's over on Kickstarter, but we'll have links. We'll probably have an article tomorrow on Spiky Bits, or you can Google it, whichever. Also, speaking of Kickstarters, Heresy Lab kicked out their Maidens Kickstarter, which is basically Lady Primarchs, this week as well. So lots of cool Kickstarters out there for miniatures, depending on what you're looking for. Something for everybody, I suppose. And something that I think is really, really worth taking a closer look at is Puppets War put out a free-to-play game this month for the Patreon. Now, you can still get it regardless. You can't get like all the cool stuff unless you're a Patreon over there, but it's completely squad based. Like you put, if you're familiar with Marvel Crisis Protocol, think grunts, right? If you're, familiar with HeroClix, think minions. So it's larger bases with multiple models on a base. And so you're kind of playing with these big round, kind of like 80 millimeter bases, and you get the stack cards and everything. You can print it all out. Go to town, go wild. It's miniatures agnostic, so you don't, necessarily need a Puppets War miniatures. You can use whatever, just throw them on the base, make it look good, the 3D print stuff, whatever. Free to play game. Looks pretty interesting.
Congratulations! I love Puppets War. That's awesome.
Yeah, they were really doing some good work out there. I love to see it. And probably a bigger piece of news that just kind of came through. First of all, on the Magic card side of things, they announced a bunch of stuff today. They put out a bunch of promos for the 40K Commander decks. So there's going to be a bunch of different alternate art Soul Rings, which is a really popular Commander card. But more importantly, Lord of the Rings and Doctor Who are getting Magic card extended universe offerings. I didn't read through the specifics on it, but it's wild out there. A lot of licensing deals happening, but maybe more importantly is this one. Embracer Group, the parent company of Asmodee and also Dark Horse Comics, THQ Nordic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, has just been on a buying spree. They own Miniature Market now. They own one of the French gaming company or retailers as well. They acquired the rights to the licensing for Lord of the Rings. So as long as it's not
in what
in
capacity?
Print, everything. As long as it's not in print, which Randall McNally, I believe, and the Tolkien estate still owns those in print rights. Movies, figures, video games, you name it. It's theirs to license now, which brings up a really interesting point. How'd they get it?
How'd they snake it out from GW?
Which brings up a really interesting point. What do you think the odds are that GW is going to be able to keep the Lord of the Rings miniatures license? And they specifically said, I forget the exact quote, but they're basically like, we're going to license this to our family of companies. So, I mean, but that includes video games. That's not specific to miniatures, of course. But
I mean, obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but definitely something interesting occurred here that I can't really explain it. I thought GW had the miniature license.
They did. They picked it up again recently.
Yeah, then they just start putting.
I don't know the specifics on it. They've had it for about 20 years now, and they renewed it. I know it was up. I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago. I know it was up, and they picked it up again. They kind of sat on it for like a year or two, and then they put some new stuff out. I forget. I don't really follow it, so forgive me. I don't know all the details on it.
Nobody plays that game.
I would say more people play it than Titanicus.
Yeah.
But
people play that Spellcrawl game or that Puppets War game you just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, free to play. I mean, one page rules is just exploding out there because it's another miniatures agnostic game that you can get 3D prints for. You can download for rules, super easy. But I think something that's worth talking about is that Games Workshop very many times attributed their growth in the 2000s to the income of cash and resources and being able to put that into new infrastructure and things from the Lord of the Rings miniatures game. That, when those movies first dropped in, what was it, 2002, et cetera, it was a big deal. So now, granted, that's not really the case in 2022, but it really helped out Games Workshop in the long run, like history wise. Like it's worth more than a footnote when it comes to the growth of the company there, right? So it's just really interesting to kind of see what's going to shake out from this because, we talked about in the past, Asmodee, has some really high performing properties with, Star Wars Legion, X-Wing, well, not as much X-Wing anymore, but Marvel Crisis Protocol. But when we saw on the top sellers list that I'm not sure we covered on here from spring, 40K is still at the top, sure, right? It's perennial number one bestseller, non-collectible miniatures games. But there was a huge shakeup with Bones Miniatures and the D&D miniatures from WizKids shot up to the second and third spot, kicked down Age of Sigmar, and booted Marvel Crisis Protocol right off the list. Legion is fifth. So Asmodee was really kind of poised right there to kind of have a lot of properties in the top five, but now not so much. D&D is really like being huge. So it's almost like there's been this trend in the miniatures world to small scale skirmish games, which Lord of the Rings is in some ways, right? So imagine how popular Lord of the Rings would be if they did make it in plastic and it was, produced through Asmodee.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought in 2022 I'd be playing with Marvel character, Marvel Crisis Marvel miniatures on the tabletop. If you told me 10 years ago, I'd be like, no, that's stupid. I mean, when people ask me, they're like, how many of these X-Wing ships do you want? And I was like, $15 for an X-Wing ship. That sounds like the stupidest thing ever. And within a week, I was like, oh my God, I need to buy all these ships. So like, I don't know, but it could be on the horizon. Just keep an eye out for it. Or, maybe it'll stay with GW. Who knows? But either way, it's going to be a very interesting time for sure to see what kind of licensed products and things come out from there. And the last thing I wanted to mention was that there is a rather, I guess at this point it's a GT major at this point. Up at Tables and Towers up in Westminster, Maryland, there is a alternate. It's billing itself as an alternative to Nova Open 40K tournament. A matter of fact, if you bought a ticket to Nova, they'll pay for your ticket and refund your price if you don't go to Nova. And there's some huge prizes. I think first place is a painted Reaver Titan plus $200 and $250. And then it goes down from there. Some other cash prizes and a random raffle for another painted Reaver Titan as well. So if you're not interested in attending Nova Open anymore, at least on the 40K side, there is an alternative. So check that out as well. It's free to play.
What's the name? What is it? What's the GT? What is it called?
It's Tables and Towers. I believe the actual tournament name is Let Freedom Ring Tournament.
Nice. Sounds awesome.
So yeah, currently it's the only alternative. Apparently there is a large number of, if the internet rumors are to be believed, a large number of people upset just in general about some of the policies, and apparently some people aren't going to all the events, but the only one to actually organize an alternative has been the 40K one, unfortunately. So,
yeah. All right, let's bring it to one last thing before we jump in with Caleb. So, Long War t-shirts available on the swag shop right now, hereticswag.com. But if you are in our Patreon and you're one of our lifetimes, you should have gotten a DM. So check your DMs for a $30 code, which is your free shirt code. So make sure you see that you have that. Use it. You can use it on anything in the shop, but there's also a new updated 2022 collection. You'll see it on the swag shop when you navigate there. So just make sure you don't forget to check your DMs for a year. Though I have no plans for turning that discount off, that code. It's $30, not 30%.
Yeah, no, it'll get you a free t-shirt.
Get a free t-shirt, at least. So I wanted to put that out there.
We'll have the annual promo rolling out soon too, which will probably also be another t-shirt.
Right. It'll be another shirt deal. We're working out the kinks, but me and Rob did have a meeting finally on Tuesday and worked it out. We're much closer than we were.
Kenny's trusting me with graphics.
I am. You're trusting me with like logistics and shipping.
Well, we're both getting out of our comfort zones.
Yeah. So role reversal. All right. We're doing it. Caleb, we've got him on the show. He's kicking it with us. So first and foremost, let's talk about the serious thing and the charity on the line here. Help Ukraine with Harder and Steenbeck. And if you guys don't know Caleb, I think we talked about it earlier, but kind of a big deal. CK Studios, you may have heard of them. We'll talk more about that in a second. Stay tuned for funny stories and hard questions. But first, there's an important charity occurring right now, and I'll let him tell you all about it.
Yeah, you guys are probably noticing we got asked in the after hours thing about where Kat is. So this is kind of her deal. Caleb and Kat with CK Studios. She's been working with Harder and Steenbeck for about a year now, helping do some of their marketing and stuff like that. And she's always wanted to develop that pink airbrush. Some of you guys that are familiar with us heard her talk about it in a while, but she finally got it out. Here's one of the copies of it. Rob, you're going to have the link up for it and all that stuff. So,
yeah, let me grab it.
And so what it is it's called the Wings of Hope is the name of the airbrush, the project that it is. And it's kind of a brainchild of Kat and then Warwick, who runs Harder and Steenbeck. At the beginning of the Ukraine conflict, Harder and Steenbeck's got a lot of artists throughout the world that they work with. And a lot of those artists were in Ukraine. There's there's a large population. I don't know exactly how to say that. Kat's really good at explaining.
Concentration.
Yeah, there's a good concentration of artists in the Ukraine area. We see a lot of Cromlech and a lot of those other guys that do the 40K miniatures and stuff like that.
Our community has a lot of Ukrainian action for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the hobby's huge over there. And not just our hobby, but just everything in general. They got a lot of artists, and they had to step in and help out some artists. They were bringing artists over, getting them out of Ukraine, helping them and their families, helping them to find jobs in Germany and stuff like that. They're a German-based company. But one artist in particular, a girl named Angela, that's what the airbrush has, like these wings that are all kind of engraved on it, and that's those Wings of Hope. It's based off of some art that she did. So they're working in conjunction with her. Originally, the idea was to try to help support her. She's got a son that, man, again, I don't know all the details, so I apologize if I don't have like super good details for you guys, or if I get stuff a little wrong. But she wasn't able to leave her son and her family and stuff. So they were trying to figure out ways to help her. So they were pretty successful at that, helping her out. But she was involved with this children's hospital that's there. And I can't pronounce the name of the hospital. It's in the link. If you guys go to the link and watch the story and watch the videos and stuff, it talks about the children's hospital. So that's pretty much what the charity is doing, as they're supporting that hospital. I like that because they're working through actual Ukrainians with this. There's a lot more control over where a lot of the charities charity money goes. You hear a lot of these kind of bum deal stories. You hear about these big charities that go out and they make millions and millions of dollars. And then it comes about that a couple $1,000 actually made it to where it was supposed to go because, stuff gets siphoned off. So Harder and Steenbeck is working directly with this hospital, with the management at that hospital there. So there won't be a siphoning of it. And they talk about it, they talk about it in the page that you link up. They talk about how it's going to work and all that stuff. The only thing Harder and Steenbeck has to do is just cover the operational costs, pretty much the production of the brush, which should be super, super low. But other than that, everything is going directly to that charity. They've even stepped up. You guys will notice the price. This is based off of the Infinity airbrushes, all aluminum body. There's a lot of neat things to this. This is a really nice brush, but they put a discounted price because they wanted to make this stand out. They wanted to make it be, even if you're just looking at getting an airbrush, they wanted that to be an appeal to you, so they can kind of expand more on this. So they were able to discount that price. It's quite a bit cheaper than an actual just stock Infinity airbrush. One of the things I'm super excited about, if you guys have used, obviously Rob, you're using the Harder and Steenbeck. One of the things that I shouldn't say it's an issue. I personally didn't like it too much, is the color cup seal on these brushes. The color cup seal is about 6 millimeters back on the brush.
Angled.
And it'll cause a couple of issues. You'll notice sometimes if you don't do a pretty good cleaning, sometimes the needle will stick in it and stuff like that. And that's because the seal is slightly back. It's just hard to get in there and clean that. They move that seal forward, and it's right at the color cup. This is the first Harder and Steenbeck brush where that seal's moved forward. I actually think it stabilized the needle a bit. I think it's a little more precise. And I mean, the brushes are.
How much are the airbrushes, and are they good?
I'm sorry?
How much are the airbrushes, and are they good?
How much are they?
They're 226 euros, but I mean, I don't know what that is in American, but I remember, I think normally they go for 250 to 275. Let me check on their site.
Yeah, I want to say, like, in US, I want to say that just the Infinity Solo, that's the one with just a single needle.
Well, the AL, the aluminum's usually a bit more because it's lighter.
Yeah, the AL is always their premium. But if you're just looking at just the standard nickel plated, not the CR plus, any of that stuff, I want to say it runs around 260 or 270 US. So this should be.
So is it good?
Oh, I love this.
I like it.
I love this brush. I've pretty much used all the airbrushes out on the market. And not because we work with them. I'm not gonna say that because we work with them. These are definitely the Cadillac of airbrushes.
Oh yeah, Harder,
yeah, for sure,
and Steenbeck are absolutely the luxury experience.
Yeah.
Like,
so the nickel plated one, the 2-in-1 where you can change the nozzle, is on Amazon for $309.
Oh,
so the AL is more.
And these are coming in at a little bit under to set it apart, like you were saying.
Like $60 cheaper.
Yeah. So it's
they definitely discounted it pretty well. I mean, it's huge. It's huge.
To kind of speak to what Caleb was talking about the cleaning, they do sell a little cleaning kit, which is pretty nice for like $20-$30. It comes with a little pouch, and it's got a nice little, like, you can fold it out, and there's a little cloth to keep everything in. But more importantly, there's a specific tool right here that you can use to remove the packing, because the seal is PTFE. It's basically Teflon. So you can use this tool. It's like a key to kind of pull out those Teflon seals and clean them. Teflon's obviously it's incredibly durable material, but it's not non-stick like 100%. I mean, even stainless steel you still have to clean stainless steel, right? So you will get gunk kind of clogged in there from time to time that you might have to, if your needle is sticking in the packing just be aware that that could be an issue. It's something I've found out myself over the years too.
And we have a couple cleaning tricks with it too to really minimize that. I mean, we've developed our techniques around the Harder and Steenbeck brush, so we got it pretty dialed. But for that seal to move, I'm so excited about it. It's like one of my favorite things about the brush. I mean, the brush is absolutely gorgeous. The art on it is gorgeous. The full body etching. They didn't leave the window in the back like on the regular Harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right here. You'll see the back has that window that you can get in and adjust like the trigger tension and stuff like that. They didn't put it on this brush so that you could get the full etching art and stuff like that. They also offer it in black. Like, I'm a sucker for these sexy black brushes. It's got the blue accents on the trigger with the purple on the back here. I mean, dude, it's a gorgeous brush.
I think they have a bundle for that too. If you buy both, it's $434. So you save about another $15 ish.
Man, I'm glad you researched this because I didn't do any research on this. I don't know the price on it or anything.
I'm actually checking out for the display stand because I don't really have a good way to hold mine. I have an old Buster holder, but I like how the display stand will protect the needle because the needle's a bit exposed. So just, if you have cats running about.
The little bullet stand it works really nice. It's fantastic. They've got a specialized one. It's got that brush finish to it, so it's not quite as shiny. It's got a real neat kind of a matte brush finish, and then the anodized purple legs and stuff like that. So definitely unique. Gorgeous brush, gorgeous product.
So if you're in the market for an airbrush or an upgrade airbrush, we mentioned earlier, like, you would definitely want good airbrushes, even if you're a beginner. This airbrush will make you better at airbrushing if all you're airbrushing with is a cheap ass garbage airbrush. So there's lots of incentive to purchase this airbrush just for your own needs. So if you just think about if you're in the market for a new airbrush or your first time purchase, go to Harder and Steenbeck and support this charity and get a dope ass airbrush that Caleb is saying is dope. And he is a prolific OG educator who, all the years of working with airbrushes is like funneled into, like, that's your airbrush now, right? Like that, like, and it's not like someone pays you to be like the Harder Steenbeck guy. It's like, that's a decision that you made over a lifetime of airbrushing. So he's also giving you the seal of approval. These are the best. Like, it's
the best airbrush I've worked with.
Rob, those are Rob's favorite airbrushes. Like, literally, it's that simple. If you like even if you're like, $250 and I don't have that money for charity. Okay. But I know there's one other guy who's like, man, I'm looking for a new airbrush right now. Get this one. Two things and right there. Get your airbrush and you help somebody out.
Sell all those sprues of Space Marines in your closet now. Pay for it.
Yeah, seriously. And, which is a good segue. So the charity is rock solid. I think everyone could understand the importance of supporting a Ukrainian children's hospital. Like, yeah. Like, let's go support them. Simultaneously, baller ass airbrushes. But some people maybe listen to this podcast and hearing us talk about Caleb in this, like, almost, I don't know, Kung Fu master at the top of the mountain kind of way.
Who is this dude?
And they may be like, who the fuck is this guy? Caleb. Well, Caleb is an OG. So I've got some questions. Now we have him on the show. We've talked about the importance of this awesome new charity. The link's going to be everywhere. So if you're listening to this on your drive to work, you don't need to stop and try to Google. Like, just know it'll be in the post. If you saw it on Patreon, it'll be on the Spike and Beats article. If you saw it on that, you can look into your RS feed. It'll be in there. So just, get safe, click the link, get your airbrush. Maybe on your lunch break, though. Like, don't wait that long. You know what I'm saying? But we've got some fun stuff to talk with Caleb about. So what's my order here? I wrote this down. Okay, I drew some arrows. I told myself I knew what these arrows would mean when I got to this moment.
How's that going?
Oh, it's struggling. The arrows, I understand the arrows, but I just crudely wrote a single word for one of them. Air. I literally just wrote air. And I'm supposed to know what this means.
Would you like to buy a vowel?
Pass Kenny. Strike again. Here it is. Caleb, if you don't know who he is, but you are a GW fanboy, you may remember a few years ago, for the first time ever, on the Warhammer YouTube page, the GW painting tour, where the famous, world-renowned Duncan Rhodes got his start. That page, you may have saw a video out of the blue with a very handsome gentleman with a shaved head and a sick beard teaching you how to airbrush on GW's YouTube channel. Like, that happened. It was a big deal because you guys know on this show, we talk a lot about airbrushes. We talk a lot about GW. And it is basically known that GW does not really support airbrushing. They don't like actively seek to destroy airbrushing, but they don't make an airbrush. They don't sell an airbrush. It took them years to even make an airbrush ready paint, quote unquote. Their system is kind of at odds with airbrushing, right? So they don't really talk about it, almost to the point where it seems like they're anti-airbrushing in their studio. Well, Caleb was on there. They flew him out there. I'll let Caleb tell you about that experience and how we all thought it was going to be the new era of GW. Instead, we were going to get these, Aquila stamped airbrushes and bolter shell shaped compressors and shit. We didn't get none of that.
Oh, man.
Caleb, how was it? Like, what happened? You just get a phone call one day and they're like, yo, come out here and let's do some airbrushing? What happened?
Yeah, well, so we met some of it all kind of bases back. We were at the staff appreciation for Adepticon. The Adepticon guys, Hank, had us out there. We teach a ton of classes at Adepticon. So we're pretty good friends with everybody there. And the GW staff was there at the staff party. We taught some classes and they said, hey, we'd like to get you guys to come over to UK and do some stuff, show some airbrushing stuff. So we said, yeah. And we thought that was pretty much what it was going to be. So they flew us over there and we got to host some classes with them, or teach some classes. I guess they hosted it. But we got to teach some classes. We taught some of the heavy metal guys, some of the Forge World guys, and some of the their on-staff artists about it. And then they had us go in and we shot these videos. And yeah, I was excited, like you said too. So how it was explained to me was that these initial videos were going to be the introduction, kind of introducing the Citadel Air range of paints. It had been out for a couple of years. It came out when they released the flamethrower air applier. I don't want to call it
in a CO2 cartridge, fake ass looking flamethrower, like Crayola blow through the end of a marker, fake airbrush. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And I think that was the goal at the time, was to release a product that they could support with that flamethrower. I think that wasn't as successful as they hoped. But their air range of paints were super successful. I mentioned it earlier. It is by far my favorite line of air paints, air ready paints to use. Like I said, I'm a sucker for that matte finish, and I love how consistent those paints are. They're super consistent throughout the entire range. That's really important to me. We teach that a lot in our classes about the consistency and how, I don't know, we kind of have jokes like, your airbrush can be consistently garbage, but as long as it's consistent, it's going to work.
Yeah, speaking my language.
Yeah, so, we got over there and we shot the video. You guys probably saw me pouring the pot of paint into the airbrush. I think we had the little term that we were trying to push at the time, the from pot to brush or something like that. A lot of people complain about the flip top lids for the Citadel.
Oh yeah, that did not do well on the socials.
That's probably the biggest complaint that they get, right? I know when I did that video, everybody asked me like, how many takes did it take to pour that paint? And I'm like, come on, guys, I paint with that paint every day.
Bro, what I say to that is that I was like, all paintbrush pots suck. I hate them all. Literally all of them. People are like, dropper bottles the best. Like, they always fucking clog. I don't know what dropper bottles you're using. Like, they're like, oh, the flip top ones suck. It's like, yeah, they suck too. Like, they all suck. I hate them all. The only ones that don't suck are tubes of paint that I used to use when I was a canvas painter. Like,
oh, wow.
You know, I tell students, like, one of the first things I tell them when you're learning about airbrushing is get rid of the idea that you're going to save paint. If you're using airbrush is not about saving paint. The airbrush is about saving time. And
I even take it a step further with my class, where people oftentimes come to me, they're like, to save time. I'm like, though saving time is a side effect of airbrushing, the purpose of an airbrush is to generate a superior product. Like, so I was like, I try to balance those two concepts because it's very easy for somebody to slip in the mentality of too much time saving.
Yeah.
And then they start kind of trying to justify not doing more things, you know? Right. And I'm like, no. We're making a superior product, something that is literally unattainable otherwise. That's what we're doing. We're also going to save time because that's tight. You know, like,
yeah, absolutely.
But like it's so true. You know what I mean? Like, you're not saving paint, you are saving time, and you're making something that looks better than possible. So like, and you and I both talked about it earlier in the pregame show. We were using crappy old pot paints, not airbrush ready, like
the old Citadel acrylic.
Arguably hardest paint to airbrush.
Do you remember too? Like, I think back in those days, like, you had Buy Painted. Remember that guy?
Oh man, what a gangster!
That dude was the hero. We did not deserve that hero.
No,
that man was a goddamn hero.
He still puts out videos every now and then too.
Yeah,
like 15 years later.
That guy was a hero, bro. And I just remember trying to figure this out back, you know, like, because in October, Caleb, I will have been doing next level painting for 12 years. And so I go back time 12 years ago to where I was. And I'm like, I remember like trying to figure out how to thin these things down. And everyone online was like, use some Windex, use some alcohol. Remember that shit? Windex?
Terrible idea. I mean, it worked, but we didn't. That's terrible to be breathing in.
Do you remember that shit? People were like, yo, pour some Windex in there, pour some alcohol in there. And I was like, because do you remember, like, airbrushing is like over 100 years old. It's not like some new thing, but it became new to our hobby space about a decade ago, right? And so
probably more than that, but yeah.
I mean, in 2010, when I started doing what I was doing, I remember it being pretty brand new and receiving a lot of airbrush criticism from the market. But
it's cheating.
It's cheating. Of course it is. I mean, yeah, sure. I'll cheat all the way to the bank, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I remember trying to figure out how to use an airbrush, and the struggle was, you know, I'd get it all set up and I'd pull the trigger back and like, it'd be like just soaking the model in paint. Right? So people online were saying things like, you need to put something in there that evaporates faster, like the ammonia in Windex or straight up alcohol. That'll keep that from happening. Later, we come to learn that, you know, we have to learn how to pull the trigger back correctly. Like, I'll just pour a bunch of alcohol in here and this problem will go away. I'll just start spraying Windex up on this motherfucker. Like, what? You remember that shit?
Stupidest things ever.
Oh my God. But Caleb put out a series of videos. I remember seeing you airbrushing with contrast paints.
Yeah.
And I think I think you were like the guy who essentially settled the market for them for a little while on that controversy, because you used it through your airbrush. And I remember you saying, like, you basically using the education term, a filter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, that came back. The whole filter thing was kind of weird the way that happened. I started shooting inks a lot. I took a class with Casey Love. He's a movie magic side guy. He does like Alien, Costume, Predator, all that stuff. You know, the guy's pretty well known. If you go to like Monster Palooza or one of those events, you're going to run into Casey Love. Incredible airbrush artist. But he was shooting inks over like these transparent cast busts. If you guys ever get a chance to take a look at like other genres of miniatures, which I guess they don't really call it miniature, they call it like I don't know what they call it over there. You know, you see the 1-to-1 vampire busts and stuff like that. But but they cast everything like in a translucent resin, and then they just shoot paint right over the top of it. They don't prime or anything. So you get all this real good depth, this light depth. And he was shooting these artist acrylic inks, and I'd never seen that before. We were just strictly just acrylic paints, right? We're using regular GW paints. So I started shooting those inks, and I found how nice they are. Kind of developing that filter technique that it's been around for forever. The historical guys, the tank guys.
Exactly. It's new to us.
Yeah, it's new to us. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. But the inks, the only problem with the inks is they dry shiny.
Yeah, they're not acrylic paint. Like,
yeah, so you're constantly messing with stuff, and then all of a sudden GW comes out with this contrast, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna give that a try. Well, I shouldn't say that. Before that, GW had a super limited run of 4 bottles of paint called glazes.
Yep. Weight Watcher green and Gilliman blue, baby.
Yeah. And
Lamenter's yellow, I think.
Yeah, Lamenter's yellow.
There's a bloodletter too, right?
Bloodletter red, yeah. Bloodletter red, Lamenter's yellow, Weight Watcher green, and I forget what the blue is, Gilliman blue or something. I can't remember. Anyways, I stumbled across those. I was doing a commission for Frankie over at Frontline Gaming, and I was doing those Eldar flyer things, the Raiders, the Eldar little Raider ship, whatever. And I was using stencils and all that stuff, and I needed to just kind of put a light filter coat over the top of it. So I grabbed that glaze and I shot it through the airbrush, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. The vibrancy that it had, those glazes were super high in gamma, like, you know, the volume, I don't know exactly, we call it gamma, right? The hue, the way it reflects light, was super high. I was like, God, these things are gorgeous. So I started shooting those. Well, they're so limited. They only have 4 colors. I started teaching those in the CK class and everything. But then Games Workshop came out with these contrast paints. And I was like, dude, I'm just going to try it. Put it in the airbrush. And I was like, wow, these guys totally mismarketed this one. I mean, I'm so airbrush eccentric.
No, you're not wrong. I've been saying that about contrast since day one. Like, this is utterly mismarketed.
Oh, they're just gorgeous in the airbrush.
Like, they're utterly mismarketed. Like, they're like, first off, they say, we're going to call this new range of paints contrast. It's like, dog, that's a pretty bold move, man. Contrast is kind of it's a big deal to me, man. You know what I mean? And then you're going to show me videos of people slapping on copious amounts of this garbage on Space Marines that you had them prime with like your Wraithbone primer. Yeah. Like, I was like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, I get it, right? Moisture gets pulled down with gravity and it accumulates in the shelves and the pockets, becomes more opaque there and less opaque here. Yeah, all paint does that, dog. What else is going on here?
Well, they did something really interesting with the contrast, and how they did this, I'm not exactly sure.
Tiny dog alert.
At least one.
Like take what is that called? Iyanden yellow, the contrast paint Iyanden yellow. It's probably one of my favorite contrast paints. If you were to take that paint and you, with the airbrush or even with the paintbrush, and you apply it over a really, really light coat, which isn't kind of how you paint with contrast, but if you apply a really, really light coat, that initial coat's going to be flash gets yellow, right? It's going to be super, super bright. It's going to be kind of a flash gets yellow. Now, if you do the same thing, you take a flash gets yellow and you thin it down to a glaze consistency and you put it over a white model, it's going to be flash gets yellow. And if you take a second layer and you put it over that model, it's still going to be flash gets yellow. It's going to be a little more opaque. The more you apply, it's still going to be flash gets yellow. Just each layer is going to be more opaque until you pretty much build up an opaque layer. With these contrasts, what happened is they kind of shift in their hue value. Initially, when you lay that layer over the white, you get flash gets yellow. But if you go and you put another layer, it kind of shifts more towards like an ochre color. And if you apply a little bit more, it kind of shifts towards this orange color. So the contrasts, and some of them do it way better than others. Like I said, the Iyanden yellow is probably my favorite for it. is the colors will actually shift in the hues and they move around a
So
little
they
bit.
just won't stay informed by a single value. They will actually change hue for some insane reason.
Right. And so hue, what we're talking about, if people don't understand what hue is just what that color recognizes, how you read that color. If you look at a fire engine red, that's a hue of red. It would be fire engine. And then if you look at a burgundy, that's still a hue of red. It's just a burgundy hue. So that's what the contrast do. They're super neat. That's why they're so good with the airbrush is as you develop layers, and the airbrush is, we talk about it being inherently transparent. Your first initial layers are going to be very light layers. And if you layer that over like a zenithal highlight type style, you're going to get these nice shifts in colors. So that's where contrast, I'm in love with those things just because of that.
Yeah, I thought your video was awesome, and I just couldn't believe they didn't do more. I was like, oh, they're going to let this dude airbrush with contrast? This is
Yeah.
perfect.
And I don't know if a lot of this comes down to COVID hitting at the time. There were plans to have us back to do more. One thing we've learned since we've worked with GW is me and Kat have a term. It's kind of working at a GW pace. Corporate pace is pretty much what we want to say. Things take ever to get done. When we were over at Games Workshop, we got to go into one of the development areas and we saw them developing some terrain. And at the time, we're taking a look at it. Well, we went back there when was that video? Like 2018, 2019?
That sounds right.
Yeah. What we were watching them was they were sculpting that orc terrain that came out like about, a year ago? The
buildings?
Bunker, yeah, the bunker things.
Uh-huh.
They had already sculpted and they were developing like 2 years before they were even released. So their pace is really slow. And then maybe with COVID, I mean, I still got my hopes up. My fingers are crossed that we are going to see that what we're talking about, that Aquila airbrush with the Boucher case compressor.
Put an Aquila on it. Everyone will buy it.
Everyone will buy it.
You can just print money at that point.
That's literally a license for money.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a couple more questions real quick. Because I forgot I wrote one down that I want to do next, which is when are IRL classes back?
We're working on that. We do have a class come up in LA. It's going to be the first of the classes that we get back. We took a break at COVID, obviously. You couldn't teach in person. We did sell a few classes that we want to try to honor that because we're not me and Kat do this CK Studios as a hobby, as kind of a side gig type thing. We don't really do it for profit. We talked about this in the after hours preamble. We don't have a lot of I don't know what you call it, expendable finances on that stuff. So each class pays for itself. Like when we're putting our fees together, the students that are paying, they actually pay for our airfare, they pay for our hotel, they pay for all that stuff.
Yeah, you're not even doing like a big profit margin there. You're just
we're actually trying to keep as small a profit margin as possible.
Yeah, you're basically trying to make it not cost you money to do.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and I'm weird about that. When things turn into a business and start turning into a job, I don't want to do them anymore, and I don't want that to happen with my hobby. So I've been really hesitant to try to expand CK Studios. I think that's why we're so OG, as you guys call it. I just don't really want it to expand too much. But anyways, we'd sold those classes, and we want to honor that because we can't really offer refunds once we've purchased airfare and all of that stuff. So we're going to go do that class in LA. So those of you that have signed up for that LA class, we are going to do that December. I believe it's December 10th and 11th. And that's our 102 class. So our classes are, we number them just to kind of make it simple, but each class is considered a standalone class. You don't need to take the 101 to be able to take the 102 to take the 103, whatever. But each class is kind of designed for different things. Our 101 or our basics technique is what we're talking about learning the airbrush and being confident and comfortable. And that's what the goal of that class is to teach everybody to be comfortable and confident in their gear. So if you guys aren't familiar with CK Studio class, you bring your airbrush and your gear to the class. We don't provide the airbrushes and paints and all that stuff. I can teach you guys on harder and Steenbeck. I can take students and show them harder and Steenbeck with Citadel paints or with the Army Painter paints or, whatever. But if you go home and you have different product, you're probably not going to get the same result. You might be a little frustrated. The goal of the class is to get you comfortable and confident with your gear.
Absolutely.
So that's what that class is. This class that we're teaching is the expansion. That's the 102. We were talking about that superior product. The 102 is more on that lines. We don't necessarily get so much into, hey, this is the basics. This is how the airbrush works. We're going to teach all that. If you're a bare bones beginner, you can come into the class. We'll totally show you how an airbrush works. We're going to do a bunch of exercises, but what it's going to do is it's going to kind of teach you that trigger control. That's the magic of airbrushing, is learning trigger control. If you get your trigger control down, there's nothing you can't do with an airbrush. We go and we're painting on a 75 millimeter orc. It's a Black Sun model called the Orc Rager. He's pretty cool. He's big old snarling. He's got two axes, his mouth's all open. The head's probably about the size of a dime, and fangs and a tongue and everything. At the end of the class, we have the students come in, and after they develop the whole class, you'll actually go in with the airbrush, and we're going to paint the entire mouth of the orc. You're going to paint the gums. You're going to paint the teeth. You're going to paint the tongue. You're going to paint the line between the gums and the teeth. You're going to paint the plaque on the teeth. The students get really intimidated on it. They're like, oh, I don't know. By the end of the class, they're like, dude, I think I'm going to try to paint an eye with the airbrush. And that's kind of that goal of that class, is to make you confident. And we say we're going to teach you the limits of airbrushing, but it's just a time matter. I don't think there is a limit to the airbrush, just how much time you want to spend with it. There might be some things that are easier or faster to do with a paintbrush, but you could do anything you want with the airbrush. And that's kind of what we're doing in that class. So that's the class we're going to be teaching down there in LA. It's going to be a carry on. Then after that, we're going to roll back into the schedule. And we want to start traveling again and start doing some more of these classes, because I super enjoy it.
Well, speaking of classes, what about this Titan class everyone's talking about?
Yes. Man, I have wanted to teach a Titan class for forever. One of the classes we teach at CK Studios is the 103. We teach on a night, and we paint a whole night. And we always get asked at the end of that, like, dude, what about a Titan class? Logistics of a Titan class. How do you teach a Titan class? I mean, how are you going to supply Titans? Who's going to come up with $12,000 in Titans to be able to show up at a class? Well, Games Workshop will, right? We're doing this partnership with Games Workshop where we're teaching classes. CK Studios is teaching classes at all of the Games Workshop Open U.S. Opens. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the Open GTs, their tournaments. We also have a carry-on where we're doing smaller classes. Some of them are airbrushing, some of them are regular brush classes. But because of that, we've worked this partnership with Games Workshop that we got access to Titans. So at the end of the year this year, their final event is always supposed to be kind of a special event. This is where all the winners from all of the GTs get invited to play in a master level tournament. And then they have this huge narrative game and all that stuff. So they're like, hey, we want some special classes. And I've been holding this Titan class thing in the back of my head for a couple of years. And I'm like, well, if you can get the approval, let's do it. So Ryan talked to the powers that be over in UK, and they said, yeah, we'll give you guys 15 Warhound Titans for a class.
So 15 Warhound Titans is $12,000.
I don't know if it's $12,000. I mean,
I haven't done the math on it either.
What is it? I think they're like 800 and something bucks.
Yeah,
for the Titan, right? So yeah, 15 times 800. Yeah, probably pretty close to $12,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
anyway.
That's a world premiere, man. That's never been done before.
Sure. Well, we didn't really think it through too much. Because it's a 3-day class, we can't spend 2 days of it building the Warhounds.
No.
That was what I was worried about. I was like, who's going to build those?
So somebody has to build all those Titans beforehand.
Good old CK Studios is going to be building them.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So the we are going to have them built. We're going to have them pre-prepped. I'm hoping we get some good casts.
That'd be embarrassing, GW. Come on.
Yeah.
Quality control that Forge World this one time.
Yeah. So, but we've got five guys that are all kind of been voluntold that they're going to help out with this. And so we figure three Titans a person shouldn't be too bad. We got a few months to get them done. But yeah, we're going to build them all. There's going to be more.
What is it? $1,500 to take the class?
Yeah, it's $1,500 per seat. That's going to include the Titan. One of the goals that Ryan set forth when he set up all this stuff with the classes is he wants to make sure that the classes are worth their while. Like our kind of our rule of thumb when we're designing the regular open classes, I don't think we'll make this with the Titan class, but with our regular open classes, the goal is we want each student to get 110% of what they pay for the class in product.
I mean, just getting a Warhound Titan built already?
Assembled, yeah, shoot.
That's kind of a good deal. That's kind of a good deal.
Yeah, and that's our goal, is to make sure that people walk away like really feeling satisfied with it. So like the master class that we do with the regular opens, you get like we just did Sinessa at Gen Con. We did Sinessa, the squig mangler squigs.
Oh yeah, that thing's cool.
Glockkin and Avatar classes, and those were all like $150. The model is about 100 to 120. You get about 8 to 10 paints. You get 3 or 4 paint brushes. You get a bunch of hobby supply stuff like that in the class. So it's roughly about 110% of the price of the class that you get in swag, and that's what we're doing. That doesn't cost GW so much. You know, we all know what the market looks like and how much injection mold plastic actually costs per model, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, this wouldn't be possible without GW support to get to 110%.
Right. And so we're going to leverage that. We're going to leverage their production to do these classes. So we're going to leverage by using more expensive models that don't necessarily cost them, but if we were to buy it, they would cost us a ton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to give away a bunch of paints. You're going to get the only reason I can't say like what colors and how much is I don't even know yet exactly how I want to design the paint palette for it. I'd really like everybody to be able to choose their colors. I might even contact like each of the students beforehand and maybe make a custom color palette for them so they can do whichever Legio they want. Something like that. I don't know. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, you still got a lot. You still got some logistics to put. So that's a really exciting class. World premiere. Nothing like that's ever been done in the history of this hobby. Which brings us to our last question before we get out of here tonight. This is the fun one. Of all the collaborations and guest artists you've had come do classes with you guys and teach, you've had guest instructors over the years. Give me something wild. Like, who is the wiliest one? Who's
we all know who the wiliest one is, right? The wildest one, and that's Sam Lenz. He's such a character, right? I mean, I think back the first time I met him, we were at Gen Con, and he just won the P3 paint contest, whatever that is. What do they call it? The War Master or whatever it is, where you win the Grandmaster. He just won the Grandmaster, and like starts yelling. He's drinking a Gatorade bottle. He spikes it. He's running around in circles, jumping up and down. I mean, the guy is so much fun. He's so high energy. He's really exciting to work with and stuff like that. So he's probably like the funnest of the artists. Vincent is, I don't want to mark down. Vincent is an incredibly talented painter, like stupid and talented painter. But he is a little more subdued. He's a little more kind of streamlined and stuff like that. So
who sneaks off to freebase in the bathroom?
Oh.
I mean, every time I go and sneak off and freebase in the bathroom in one of these things, it's only ever Sam in there with me.
Oh yeah, no, Sam is a blast. We're kind of known for airbrushing classes, at CK Studios. So the first class that we do with Sam, he's gonna paint. Man, I forget the model that he's gonna paint on. So all these students sign up and everything. It's in Bay Area, and they all show up there, and they all bring their airbrush gear and all this stuff. And Sam sits down with no airbrush, no anything, and gets out some paintbrushes. And they're painting on a big model. Man, I can't remember the model. It was like a 75 millimeter or something. And for like the next 6 hours, they wet blend a leg. Like the students were like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Justin Kiefer, one of our other CK studio artists, was sitting on it, and about an hour into it, he's like, screw this, puts the brushes away, grabs the airbrush, and just starts whipping out the model. So that's probably my funniest story about it.
That's a funny story. I like that because Sam Lenz, he does airbrushing now, but he was definitely in the old guard of like resistance to airbrushing.
Oh yeah.
He's changed his ways as he's challenged himself to his art. Like I said, I've been in the game for 12 years, and there was first 5 of those years was like just irrational, just hate coming at the airbrush. You know what I mean? He was the old guard, but like he uses an airbrush now. I see him on stream. But one of the reasons I like Sam Lenz so much, just to conclude the story, is like it's not enough that he's teaching you how to wet blend. Like you can learn. That's not a special thing. But if you look at his style, right? Because stylistically, that's what makes everyone unique, right? His style is what you should be paying attention to if you ever take a lesson with Sam Lenz. The future, anyone listening, is that he's the master of like paint doesn't have to be smooth to work. As long as your paint goes in the right place, like the dark stuff is where it needs to be and the bright stuff is where it needs to be, just to distill it down to basics. Art looks good if there's contrast. Doesn't in the style of how that occurs, that is totally not what contrast means or what having those elements together. He is the master of like just, I can literally see brushstrokes on this Golden Demon Winnie model, and it's still the best model I've ever seen. Yeah. Like I can say,
that's wild.
Like it's like he does not care, and that has informed his style over the last 25 years. And that's what you should be paying attention to, is not the the obsession with perfectly smooth, perfectly flawless. That's what I would take from a Sam Lenz class if I was going to go take a Sam Lenz class, is like to break myself of that crippling need to like deploy flawlessness at all times. Like, so like that, I really wish I could have been there and seen this 6-hour leg. Like, cause I remember when you guys promoted that, I think that was a big deal. That was like one of Sam's first, getting out of his own Beats Lab moments. Yep. And I think I was actually talking to him at that time because I've had a lot of phone calls with the guy over the years, like helping him get his Patreon started, encouraging him to be on Twitch. It's like, you need to be on fucking Twitch, dog. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Love that guy. Like, so that's so funny to hear, man. I'm so glad that you share that with us.
Yeah, that is good times, man. I love working with all those guys. We got some great, throughout the U.S., we've got some great artists out there that are just, they're all good and fun to learn from, and you can always get a good takeaway from just about any artist out there. It's true.
It's true. Well, anyway, guys, that's Caleb. If you guys haven't heard about this guy before, and now you've listened to us gush about him for the last hour, check him out on social media. I think you guys are still big on Facebook.
Just Facebook. I don't, like I said, keep it pretty low key. We don't have a web page. Not really doing any videos.
Just Google CK Studios.
Yep.
Something will come up. If you want to learn about these classes and these dates as they open up IRLs, if you want to learn about the Titan class, there's going to be all these links here in the description boxes below. If you want to support this charity, hit those links. We appreciate that, guys. I'm going to kick it over to Rob so he can take us out of here before we set up some Twitch raids.
Well, that's it for this one. Make sure to head over to thelongwar.net for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.